Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Sandrina. I'm from Portugal and I work remotely in a company called Remote. And part of my job there is to create delightful interactive experiences, which includes making sure that every click that we create is in fact interactive. That's what we're going to talk about today. So we can click on inputs, buttons, links that look like buttons, and buttons that look like links. And thanks to JavaScript, come on, we can click anywhere, right? Now, let's look at simple clickable elements. We have here a button, so let's get started. With JavaScript, everything is possible. On click, yeah, click, it works. What about the people who cannot click on stuff and use the keyboard instead? If I press the key, the tab key, I cannot access this button. So that's the basic reason why you need a button. So this is pretty basic, right? So unless you are really sure of what you're doing, please use a button. That way, if I press tab, you can see it there, a focus indicator around. So now it's clickable and interactive. Now let's look into this handle click callback. Oh, it's using JavaScript to go to another page. Well, if it goes to another page, shouldn't it be a link instead? So besides the visual aspect, what's the difference between a link and a button? Well, JavaScript, everything is possible, right? Well, with a link, you can do things that you cannot do with a button. If you right-click on it, maybe it's a little too small, but you can open the link in a new tab. You can save it, you can copy, you can bookmark, you can do all of those out of the box. But with a button, nothing happens. So when you are dealing with navigation, please consider using a real link. Now, when it comes to styles, it's like, oh, it looks like a link, but I want a link to look like a button. So yeah, a link, then a button component inside, and voila, we have a button, right? Now, this is React world, but at the end, we are dealing with HTML. And depending on what tool you are using, the outcome might not be exactly what you want. So if you are using Next.js, the output will be a button again. And if you are using React Router, you are having a link with a button inside. So if you press tab once, again, now look carefully. Tab outside and tab again inside. So you have too much interaction here. So please try to avoid this type of thing. It's invalid HTML, so we can do better than that. How? Well, there are many ways, but here a proposal. So we have a button component that accepts the href prop with a link. And then the component itself, well, if it's an href, please let's render a link that looks like a button. Otherwise, let's render the actual button. And yay, you have a link that looks like a button and it behaves like a link. Okay, this is the first example. Let's look at another example. Here we have a navigation link and you can see that we are at home at the moment. We can, hover it. You can go to the inbox or documents and visually we can tell where we are. We can so interact and understand this link. What about the people who cannot see? What if you cannot see or have some you struggle visually to see where to see the web? It's like, what about those people? They also interact with the web. It's just a different way than we do. They use a tool called screen readers, and the screen reader will describe the page for them based on the HTML, based on the semantics. So in this case, imagine that we have a list and then 3 links, and the screen reader will say, well, home, link, inbox, link, documents, link, right? But what else? Now, one little trick that helps me to think about or simulate how people that cannot see the web, is to imagine the page without styles. So yeah, I can say, okay, home, inbox, but I interact with it and I'm lost. I don't know where I am anymore. So we need something else here in HTML, and we can only add it with JavaScript. And this is where ARIA attributes comes in. So there are multiple ARIA attributes, but for this particular case, we would use, ARIA current with the value page. So at this moment, the screen reader will say something like inbox, link, current page. And because this is a dynamic attribute, depending where you are in the page, you need JavaScript to toggle it on and off. So with your router tool, whatever you use, you can compare the current route with the link. And if it's a match, you add the ARIA current. If you use React Router, it comes out of the box with a nav link component. So please remember to use it as well when you are dealing with navigation, because this component has the ARIA current behind the scenes for us. Now, another example, a toggle button. Can click, it's active. We can again understand what's the state. What if we remove the styles? We are lost again. So we need something else again. In this case, we have a button and we need a state for it to say if it's pressed or not. In this case, are you pressed true or false? With JavaScript, again, it's dynamic based on your current state, wherever. And the screen reader will say something like, instead of button favorite, we'll say toggle button pressed or toggle button not pressed. Now, the one thing that I really like about the ARIA attributes is that you can use them to style elements. So instead of using, classes or props in CSS and JS, you can use these attributes to also style your elements. So if the developer forgets about that, then the CSS, it's also broken, which is an extra reminder for you to care about accessibility. Now, in these examples, we can see how we have links that are clickable, interactive, and meaningful. And the meaningful part, many times you need JavaScript. You need JavaScript to make your interactive websites truly accessible. I have a last example for you, a little bit more complex. The dialog button, also known as a modal. So open a dialog, you have a little modal, you interact with it, then you close, just a couple of clicks, right? Now, to make a modal fully clickable, interactive, and meaningful, it's a lot of work. A while ago, I was searching in the open source community for, a package that does the job for me. And I found a couple of them, quite a few, actually. And I reached out to one of the authors in one of the packages, React Ali Dialog, and I asked them, look, what's the difference between your solution and the other solutions? And the answer that I got, well, it was, if you can't see this, it's harder than it looks like, okay? It takes a lot to just do a dialog that is fully accessible, like the keyboard navigation, nesting dialogues, event listeners, callbacks, browser support. And this is just a dialog. And you can click in many other things. Actually, sorry, we can interact with many other type of custom elements. Forms, tooltips, carousels, accordions, actually anything, right? It's JavaScript world. So when you face one of these custom components, instead of trying to, reinventing the wheel, look for the community, look for libraries that are fully focused on accessibility and that do the job for you. For example, Rich UI or React ARIA both have components and hooks that do the job for you. And another thing that you can do to improve your developer experience is to have, for example, a ESLint plugin called GSX Ali, which validates your components on the fly. But even better than that, remember at the end of the day, it's HTML, not React. So if you install Axcore React, it validates the final HTML for you and logs all the issues in the DevTools. You can even integrate with CI if you want. Now, I've been talking about JavaScript quite a lot to solve accessibility, but do we need JavaScript all the time? So in this little, interactive element here to toggle something, I didn't need any type of JavaScript. I used the most underrated HTML element, which is the details, where you put, the trigger content inside the summary and then the content itself in the rest of the element. And look, no JavaScript. So sometimes less is more. Now, Honestly, I don't care if you use JavaScript or not to do whatever you need to do. At the end of the day, just remember this. The internet is amazing. It's an amazing place, and everyone should be able to enjoy it, regardless of how each one of us interact with it. So remember, every click is an interaction, but not every interaction will be a click. Thank you.